Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the Full Press Saints podcast, part of the Full Press Coverage Network. What is going on? It is Alec and Matt here today to recap what has been a ecstatic, exciting, just a flat out awesome weekend of Saints football. Um, and then, of course, the big downing news afterwards with Jameis Winston and whatnot. But we'll dive into all that today. Here on the Full Point Saints podcast. It's been quite the week. Matt, I understand you had quite the weekend, considering you were at the game, live tweeting it from our Twitter page at SaintsFPC. So before we get to the game itself, Matt, I mean, look, you were there. You saw them introduce Mark Ingram as a starter. You saw him lead the Who Dat chant before the game. You saw the PJ Williams pick six at the end of the game. I can hear from the TV that dome was rocking. That dome was rocking when all that happened. So before we get to you were there, tell me what it was like. What was it like down there in the dome on Sunday? 'Cause I know it was a pretty big game, and probably the biggest game we've had with fans since probably the last 2 years or so. So what was it like to be there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been 670 days or something since the Saints won in front of a pretty much full arena at the Dome, so that was definitely special. They kind of dropped the ball against the Giants, but redeemed themselves on this one, and I was lucky enough to have been there. It was amazing, such a good game to have gone to. Didn't expect it to really turn out that way. I thought if we were going to win, it was going to be kind of like a really low scoring, close game, but turned out a little bit differently than what I thought. And I mean, like you said, the dome was rocking. I mean, from Mark Ingram getting introduced, which was a special moment for me since Mark Ingram is one of my favorite players of all time personally. It was awesome to have seen that. I'm so glad to have seen that. That's just awesome. One of my favorite sports memories for myself. And how he led the Who That chant when he was in the introductions. It was just awesome. Great moment. And then just the fact that the dome rocking towards the end there, the PJ Williams pick, I mean, just going back and watching a video of it, just a clip of it, and the fans just being kind of loud, trying to disrupt the offense of Tampa Bay there, trying to disrupt them and get them off their game. And then PJ makes a pick. You hear the fans go nuts, and then he actually runs it in for the touchdown, and then it gets even louder. It was just crazy, man. It was a very fun atmosphere. It's only my second game I've ever really been to in the dome, but it's always such a fun time, and
Right.
I'm hoping to get to go again next year.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. When was the last time I was in the dome? Uh, Off the top of my head, I want to say 20 was it 2013 Cowboys Saints Sunday Night Football. They,
I think mine was the same year because it was Kenny Vaccaro and Kenny Stills' rookie year.
yeah,
It,
2013. Yeah, that would be yeah.
yeah, that's
Or
crazy.
yeah, dang, Still's been in the league for that long. It's crazy. Yeah.
hmm
So obviously, what a great game it was. The Saints winning 36-27. Of course, they were only up by two before the PJ Williams pick six came into play. Here, I'll go through the numbers for you. Alec and Matt, 19 carries, 61 yards with a touchdown. We'll get to the quarterbacks here in a second, but did you want to take a stab at the leading receiver for the Saints? Do you know who it was?
If I believe right, I think the main two. I know. I think Deontay Harris played the best, but if I had to guess, it's probably Kevin White just on that one 38-yard catch he
Yeah,
had.
yeah. Let me ask you: did they go crazy when Simeon threw deep to Kevin White?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
pretty big it's a pretty big pop.
yeah. Because just from watching the game on TV, I saw. Um, I know Malcolm was in the shop. I think there's some other same players who were, they seemed really ecstatic to see Kevin White go out there. And here's the thing about Kevin White, real quick. The dude hasn't caught a football in, what, 3 years, I believe, is to
Mm-hmm.
be exact. You feel nothing but happy for the guy when he makes a play like that, right? Because I know obviously he had uh, some big drops in the preseason, and then Monday night against Seattle, he had a big one late in the game, and to see him, and I'm not gonna lie, he almost dropped it. Like he when he caught that ball, he made sure to corral it.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean, it was a good play by both Simeon and Kevin White, man. I was surprised when it happened. I was like, wow, I did not expect to see that happen. But hey, man, props to Kevin White. Happy for him.
Yeah, I could not agree more. The Saints defense ended up with 5 sacks. Quan Alexander, Tano, Tano. We're just gonna go with Tano.
Tano Passanio.
Passing, thank you, Matt. You saved me once again. And Cam Jordan had the big sack, and really, what was like a bully slash like I'm a man fumble, where he just kind of threw that hand out and slapped that ball out of Brady's hands early on in the game. Chauncey Gardner Johnson and PJ Littleton had the picks. Um, Quarterbacks. Jameis Winston was 6 of 10 for 56 yards and the touchdown, as well as he had 4 carries for 40 yards in the game before the devastating knee injury, which eventually came out to be a torn ACL with some MCL damage as well. Um, so obviously he's done for the year, unfortunately, and that really sucked because I feel like Jameis, that was the game where he was really coming into his own, I thought. Um, Trevor Steven came in and actually I thought played pretty well, all things considered. 16 of 29 for 159 yards, 1 touchdown, no
Oh yeah, I
interceptions.
mean,
Um,
starting off, I mean, the Bucks
so
came out
I
with
know the
their
stats are one
drive
thing,
and
Matt, but
scored,
watching
and
the
then
game, what
so
were
I
some of
was
your
a little
takeaways
nervous at
from
the beginning, and then
what
Saints
proved to
came
be a
down
very
and
great game between two very
Jameis
good
handled
teams?
things and had that beautiful dot touchdown to Traquan, which was
Yep.
amazing. And then, unfortunately, he had gotten hurt, and when that happened, like I didn't know what had gone on. I thought maybe whenever the horse collar tackle had happened, Devin White had kind of slung him to the ground and he hit his head on the turf and maybe got a concussion. But about like at halftime, and I mean, I saw him limping, so I was like, okay, maybe it's not a concussion. I don't know what's going on, but I saw where he'd been carted off. I was like, oh no, that's not good. And then I saw a video on Twitter of what happened. And I said, oh no, that's just terrible. I felt so bad for him. And then Trevor Simeon was in, and obviously, I mean, I probably felt like everyone else and was just like, oh no, here we go. And then he surprised me, man. Trevor Simeon came out there and made some good plays. I mean, he made some bad ones too. Some of them he got bailed out on, which was good to see. Some of the calls actually went to the Saints' favor, which is awesome to see. That doesn't happen every day. But after the second half, after we had scored and the Bucs started making the surge, I was feeling a little bit more nervous. And then it got to the end there. The Saints kicked the field goal, and everyone knows the whole Tom Brady story. And everyone likes to say it. Oh, he's gets in the fourth quarter, you leave time on the clock for him, then he's going to go down and score. And even so, to my friend that went with me, he went because he's a Brady stan and he wanted to see Tom Brady
Yeah.
as a Buccaneer. So he had started recording, thinking he's going to see a fourth quarter comeback. And then PJ Williams just gets the pick and everyone goes nuts, man. It was a roller coaster of emotions of a game. It was insane. Defense stepped up when they needed to. And overall, I just feel bad for Jameis because I feel like you said, he was kind of coming into his own, and I feel like he's going to have a good game against his former team. The Bucs secondary is also kind of mediocre, so I know he could have picked them apart, even with our lack of depth of weapons out there. And I mean, he's looking good. I mean, he's running all over them. I think he had like 40 yards, just running the ball.
Yep.
And like I said, he had that beautiful dot to Traquan. So I mean, you just got to feel gutted for him. But all in all, the Saints, they came together, rallied around it, and gutted out a tough, exciting win. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, back to your point about Jameis Winston. Yeah, I think you saw the way, um, Sean called the game for Simeon in the second half, where they were more or at least trying to get the ball down the field vertically more in the passing game. I feel like this was going to be the game where Sean Payton was gonna, stick out his middle finger and say, "Ha, see, you guys, we can throw the ball down the field. We can get a game going at the passing game. We can try it on the field through the air." Against Jameis' old team, against Tom Brady, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year, back in New Orleans in the Dome for what looked like was going to be the biggest home game in a couple seasons for the Saints. So I think this was the game Sean had planned to kind of let it all out with Jameis Winston. Unfortunately, we were robbed of that, I feel. But like you said, I think Simeon came in and did a very admirable job and consider this was a guy who, uh, I think going into camp, I think a lot of us have kind of written off Trevor Simeon as far as him making the roster. I think we looked at Winston as a starter, Taysom Hill as kind of the gadget guy, and Ian Book was going to be the guy who holds the clipboard, is going to be inactive for some games, and kind of sit back and watch. And they made Ian Book inactive the entire season so far. I believe they carried 4 quarterbacks on the roster after the preseason, but um, it seemed to work out for the Saints. And here's my thing about Sean Payton, man. In all seriousness, he needs to be considered heavily for a Coach of the Year, man. I mean, I don't know how else to say it to you. Since 2018, I believe his record with all his quarterbacks, I think with Taysom Hill, it's 4-2 as a starter, or 4-1, my bad. Uh, Teddy Bridgewater, he went 5-0. Winston, he was 5-2. Simeon, he was 1-0. I consider this game as a 1-0 win for Simeon. And with Breeze, he's been like 17-5 since 2018. With Breeze missing time with the injuries, so uh, and again, and he finds a way to win these games with this offense and the system that he's put in place since 2006. And it doesn't matter who's out there playing, really. You look at the receivers: Kevin White, Deontay Harris. Uh, Harris was undrafted. Kevin White, was the guy who would be written off by most guys as a bust. Had caught a ball in 3 years in the NFL. He comes in and makes a big play in the second half. Deontay Harris had the big uh, reverse carry for 22 yards late in the game to set up that field goal. You know, Garrett Griffin, who came in and had a couple nice catches from Simeon early on. Marquez Callaway, who was a guy who, again, was undrafted. So Sean Payton just finds a way to get the most out of his guys. I feel like, going to the deadline, I thought people were like, oh, let's trade for Deshaun Watson. And, I'm kind of thinking, no, I think Trevor Steven can be the guy for now to kind of ride the ship with this team. And as long as Sean Payton was the coach, I have no question whatsoever that he believes he's going to put together the best game plan for the quarterback, whoever it is. So, overall, it was a great game. Offensively, I thought they played. The line was fantastic. They actually got to run the ball. When need be, they ended up with 152 yards on the ground. And this is a very stout and good Bucs front seven. I believe it's top 3 in the NFL against the run.
They're up there.
Yeah, so I mean, having Mark Ingram back was huge. You saw Ingram he caught those 2 passes early on in that drive. That kind of got the offense rolling. He is a guy who keeps Kamara fresh off of his feet. So you bring him in to get those tough yards up the middle, which is exactly what he did in this game. So I mean, man, the only thing is it's the Winston injury, right? That's the only thing that sucks about this game, because I feel like we were really gonna see the best of Jameis from this point going forward. But man, this was a classic game. The defense stepped up when it needed to and made the big plays. And got the pressure on Brady. So The only thing that could have been better was if you were actually at the game, like you were. I can only imagine what the dome was like when that PJ pick six happened, and
Man.
man,
So
indeed.
so crazy. It's just no words to really explain it. And like you said, it just the only thing that you're just gutted about is the Jameis thing, like I said. And
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like he's in good spirits. I mean, you saw him on you saw him on CJ's Instagram live dancing with crutches. I mean, the
Only
guy's
Jameis, right?
yeah, only that guy would be in the locker room dancing with an air cast on his leg with crutches. It's just insane, man. I mean, he's just that kind of guy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we heard Kamara say it after the game that that's just the kind of guy Jameis is. He's
Hmm.
not gonna crush him or cramp his style. Jameis is gonna do what Jameis does, and if that means being the big goofy guy in the locker room and celebrating with his teammates after a big win, then hey, I mean, I'm all for that. I just hope Jameis is back next year with this team because I feel like we were just starting to get to see what it was like to have Jameis as the quarterback, and I feel like he still can be the guy. It just sucks now to wait basically a whole other year to possibly even see that, depending if he were to come back. But um, let's talk about the quarterback situation real quick, then, Matt. So
Hmm.
obviously they won a big game here. They're now 5-2, comfortably in the NFC wildcard race. Tampa still would lead the division at the moment. Um, so I mean, what are you thinking here? Do you think we roll with Simeon? Um, do we think Taysom Hill is going to be the guy who? It looks like he will be cleared to come practice this coming week. So, I mean, do you think he's the guy? Do you roll with Simeon? What are you thinking here?
Well, I mean, in some of those situations, it's like when the backup comes in and plays, like last season. And this team's gone through it multiple times. So I mean, Sean knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had Drew Brees get hurt 2 years ago, and Teddy went in 4-0, and then last year he got hurt during the San Francisco game. Jameis came in, had kind of a not really blow your mind out game, just kind of coasted along, got to where it is, and then Taysom took over the next couple weeks, and then we went 3-1. And now this time, Trevor Simeon went out there and made some plays, and maybe he did enough for Sean to be like, oh, maybe we'll just let him play. And I think
Mm-hmm.
a big part of it going into this Falcons game this week, with Falcons hate week and everything, um, is the fact that last year, I mean, Taysom, he had his best games against the Falcons, but Taysom's been hurt, and he probably hasn't really been in the quarterback room that much this season. So they might roll with Trevor Simeon another week, let Taysom get in the quarterback room before they make the switch, and also let them get another look at Trevor Simeon to see if they want him to do it. And this also gives Sean another shot at saying, hey, maybe Taysom is my quarterback of the future. Give him a shot at seeing what he can do playing in a more extended role.
Yeah.
Because we all know Sean Payton lusted some Taysom Hill at the end of the day. So, and with the whole quarterback situation, it's at the end of the day, it's mostly just trying to figure out who's going to be the face of this franchise. And going into it, we all wanted Jameis to be that guy. I mean, he's younger. His ceiling is definitely higher than what Taysom Hill is as far as talent wise. And if you ask me, Taysom's deep ball is just really ugly. I'd much rather have Trevor Simeon. Yeah, I kind of cringe whenever Taysom throws a deep ball. They always come up, but yeah, that's kind of what I think about it right now. Yeah, they always And come up just either to short one more or thing just about don't the look right. Jameis And thing is, I mean, it kind of sucks. I for would him much rather 'cause have Simeon. I know throwing he was deep kind of balls on a right one now, year and deal with a lot of our trying wide to receivers figure out that we what he's have right going to now, be that's doing. especially,
and
I mean,
just
you saw Kevin White, him out, and Deontay Harris is that kind of guy. Now it's kind of Traquan inconclusive. Smith is that kind of
and
guy.
we
don't
don't
really
really
know
know
has that kind of guy what it has could that be kind of like because we've skill never set, really had all
so
the weapons out there. Granted, at the perfect situation in the NFL, you never really have a perfect situation most of the time. There's always somebody missing, somebody's hurt. It's just something that you can say against it. But I mean, I think Jameis did enough to warrant him coming back next season. Probably not on a long term deal. Probably like on maybe a 2 year deal. See how that goes, but hopefully he can make a return and get healthy, and maybe we can see him come back. But for the meantime, it's going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be Simeon next week against the Falcons, and I'm thinking they're going to ease Taysom in and maybe get him playing not this week against the Falcons, but the next week.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about Taysom Hill, in my opinion. I feel
It
like
gives you another dimension to this offense as far as Hill can line up in the slot. He can line up as a tight end and be a blocker. He can line up uh, in the fullback, H-back type role, and he can also be a guy who can, in the quarterback office, he can play quarterback. So, to me, I feel like the best bet is to play Simeon, just because Taysom Hill brings an element to that offense that obviously we are already lacking so many skill players. That I just feel like I never thought it'd be important to say that I wish we had our third string quarterback playing offense, but that's just where we are. So I feel like Taysom Hill, he just needs to play offense, man, because we're already desperate for playmakers on the offensive side of the ball without Michael Thomas, and that's the thing, with no Mike Thomas, no
I feel like last season when
acquisitions
Taysom
at the
took over,
deadline.
he didn't really do the Taysom attributes that you would like to see. He tried to sit in the pocket, try to be an actual pocket passing quarterback, when in reality, you might want to have him make one or two reads, they're not there, run the ball. And he just did not run the ball that much because I feel like he's trying to prove that, hey, I can sit here and be a pocket passer. But in reality, what makes him such a valuable, I don't want to say an asset, but a valuable maybe question mark as a quarterback, maybe the possibility and the potential there is the potential running ability that he has. And
Yeah,
he just never really used it. So if he's going to be the guy, I would like to see him run a little bit. But yeah, as you're saying, having him as an extra weapon out there is definitely something that could be used, especially I could see us being more of a heavy run team, like running even more than what we have been.
and that
Now that we
makes
have
the
more,
addition of Ingram even more important to this offense.
exactly, and because we don't need to run Kamara into the ground. Because I mean, look at what happened with Derrick Henry. Look what's happening with Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
These running backs just can't handle 30 plus touches a game. It's just not not a good way to game manage your guys. I mean, you see players in the NBA always taking like a rest day because it's important. You put too much mileage on the wheels, and it just starts to break down on these running backs. I mean, even people are just saying, "Oh, Derrick Henry, he's just unstoppable. He's never going to get hurt." And it happens. I mean, it just happens to all of them.
Yep.
And uh, and just having Taysom run the ball too to alleviate some of that will help also. But having kind of a run game between him, Mark Ingram, and Kamara could be a way this team goes. And just have Simeon handle most of the passing work. That could be a route they take, which would be interesting. But I feel like that would kind of alert teams to be like, hey, Taysom Hill's in the package. They're definitely going to run. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be very interesting. But yeah, the point you made with Taysom Hill, even having him just as another receiving threat would be helpful too. But who knows? I mean, Garrett Griffin, he was showing out yesterday
Of all
randomly.
people,
Yeah, of all people. I mean, he was looking pretty decent out
he
there.
ran some mean he ran some mean 6 yard stick routes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, and don't forget also, you might get Tony Jones Jr. back in the mix as well. And
Yeah.
here's the thing about the Saints, right? And I think to your point about this team maybe shifting and becoming a more run heavy and play good defense type of team. They have the offensive line to do it.
Hmm.
James Hurst came in and I thought played pretty. I think everybody thought Thrakmon was going to get the start left guard, but James Hurst came in just because of probably the veteran experience. He came in right away and immediately filled the gap at left guard and played at a much higher level than I think we all expected him to. Uh, and this offensive line can play bully ball here. With Ingram, with Kamara, with Taysom Hill, and possibly get Jones Jr. back into the mix. Um, and check this out, all right? So I have the NFC rankings pulled up right now, the standings.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Green Bay, Arizona, Dallas, Tampa, those are currently your division leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you confidently say that those four, and you count the Rams, the fifth seed, those are probably like the powerhouse teams right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this work gets interesting, right? And I think this brings you back to the point of resting Mike Thomas and making sure he's ready to go fully with that ankle injury. So the Saints currently 5-2 at the sixth seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as you know now with the NFL, there's now the playoffs. There's now 7 teams in the playoffs. So check this out: 7, 8, 9. The teams behind New Orleans that could be gunning for that last playoff spot, and then for the sixth seed, right? So check this out: Carolina, Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco.
Yep.
Tell me, tell me, do any of those teams realistically scare you?
Well, I mean, San Francisco's in a tough division where they're going to kind of beat up on each other, and San Francisco's going to have to win some bigger games. I'd honestly be more scared of Russell Wilson coming back and kind of leading the Seahawks on a surge and popping back up in there. So I'd be kind of more scared of the Seahawks and the 49ers. But us beating the Seahawks is going to help there a lot. That was a huge win in terms of wild card races. And then pretty much the other wild card spot, that first one's pretty much going to be occupied between the Cardinals or the Rams, whoever ends up the better of the two out of those. I'd probably guess the Rams at this point. And then you have the Panthers kind of behind us, and they whipped us. They whipped us that first game. So we definitely got to get them once they come back to the Dome for me to feel better about them. But so far, they're kind of collapsing. But when Christian McCaffrey comes back, that could be a big factor for them. So they're going to be the main one to watch out for, I believe. And then maybe the Vikings, but it's not looking too good for them right now either after losing to the Cooper Rush-led Cowboys.
So let me ask you this and follow up. So the Saints, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the 49ers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you have the most confidence in to secure a playoff spot?
Saints, Panthers, 49ers, Vikings.
And how big is the gap between the Saints and Panthers, in your opinion?
I need to pull up the rest of the Panthers schedules. That way I can kind of get a better look at it. I was looking at the Saints schedule, and they have some winnable games, and then they have some tough games. As far as the Panthers go, they have some easy games and they have some tough games. The Panthers have a lot of tough games because they play the Patriots, which isn't just a toss-up game.
No, Mac Jones is playing good football right now.
Yeah, they play the Cardinals, which is a tough game. They play Washington, which, I mean, it isn't just a layup game, but it's probably their easiest, well, not their easiest game, but it's one of their easier games on the schedule. Then they play the Dolphins. They'll probably, yeah, not much to say about the Dolphins right now. Then they got the Falcons. They already played the Falcons once, so they only have one more Falcons game on them. They play the Bills. The Bills are a really good team right now. And then they got the Bucs twice and the Saints to end the year. So if they lose both of the Buccaneers game and lose to us, they're kind of screwed.
Yep.
So
yeah,
we'll just have to take care of business in our end. And I don't know if Tampa Bay will have it wrapped up towards the end. Let's hope they don't. So they actually have to. Maybe they're fighting for the number 1 seeds. That way they can get the bye. So maybe they'll have something to play for in that Week 17 game, or Week 18 game, I guess it would be now, to try and keep the Panthers out. But that'd be the main thing. But so far, just because we started off the year so far and our defense is so strong and we do have winnable games on the schedule, I mean, what we have the Falcons next week, I could see us winning that, but I don't want to just come on here and be like, oh, we're going to just steamroll over all these easy teams because honestly, I think the Falcons game next week could be a trap game.
But they're Philadelphia.
Yeah, but the Falcons they did lose Calvin Ridley. He's out for an undisclosed amount of time, so it doesn't look like he's going to be playing this Sunday. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure we're going to double up Kyle Pitts, triple up Kyle Pitts or something. Then we play the Titans. That's going to be a tough one, but Derrick Henry's out, so that helps. The Eagles, I'm not really too worried about the Eagles, but like you said, it could be a trap game. The Bills, that's going to be a hard one. And the Cowboys are a hard one. The Jets, I mean, you never know. Mike White beat the Bengals. And then we play the Bucs on December 19th, and they're going to come in wanting to beat us on that one for sure. That's going to be a hard one. And because, I mean, honestly, this Bucs game, a lot of things went our way. We got 3 turnovers. We had some penalties called our way, although they were playing kind of chippy there, the Bucs were. So,
yeah.
But as far as just looking at the schedule, I see more winnable games on the Saints schedule than I do the Panthers schedule. So
right.
I think us securing a seeded game would be pretty doable. And going into the season, I had us as like the 7th seed. I thought we were going to win like 9, maybe 10 games, and I could see that happening. But we're already at 5 wins now, so it could be closer to 10 or 11.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like the competition in the NFC is so much weaker after the Rams and the Saints. I feel like New Orleans, they can win games with what they're playing right now with, running the ball, playing smart quarterback play, and defense. Like, you're on that. And really quick, Matt, before we log off, let's just touch on the trade deadline that happened yesterday. So, obviously the Saints made no moves. There was a report that the Saints and Odell Beckham and the Browns, not Odell Beckham Jr., the Browns discussed trading for Odell Beckham Jr., who obviously, as we've seen, is not very happy right now being in Cleveland. Although the reports came out that they really couldn't work it out money-wise, just couldn't make sense, so eventually talks were off the table. It looks like my initial feeling is that maybe New Orleans wanted the Browns to eat up some of Odell's salary in the same way the Texans ate up Bradley Roby's salary. And maybe Cleveland just wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Browns, they're still a playoff contending team. They could make the playoffs, and they could use Odell Beckham. I mean, if they lose Odell Beckham, their receiving core definitely takes a hit.
Yeah.
I know it hasn't worked out quite well for the two, but, I mean, they'll probably rather just keep him and see how it goes rather than pay him for another playoff-bound team to have him. I mean, if they're in the situation of a Texans or a Lions team, maybe that trade could happen where they just pretty much trade him away for money. But, I mean, the Saints probably wanted, like you said, they definitely would have needed them to take up the cap hit because they probably couldn't take on any of the cap because they're probably pretty constrained with cap. I don't know what their cap hit is as of right now, but I mean, you saw the Rams eating up a lot of Von Miller's contract in a trade yesterday, which, by the way, that trade is crazy. Seeing Von Miller and Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald on the same defense is nuts. So that's definitely a scary defense if we ever have to play them. That's scary to think about. But yeah, that would definitely be the only way that trade would happen. Plus, Odell has 2 more years on his contract where he's making like 13.7. I think the cap hits at like 15 mil each year, and I don't know if they want to pay him that, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So the estimated cap space, according to Spot Track, the Saints listed at $1.2 million.
Yeah, say there's no way.
Cleveland would have to eat up pretty much all that salary that Odell Beckham is due this year.
Yeah, because currently his cap is at 15.7. I'm sure it's probably I'm sure they probably prorate it whenever a trade happens, where they get rid of some of it throughout the year, so they'd only take on maybe 70%, maybe if they tried to get him right now. But there's no way you could even fit 70% of that. No way near it. So definitely some moves would have to be made. But
Yeah.
I mean, in general, the trade deadline normally in the NFL, it always gets hyped up.
Yeah,
That all these things are going to happen,
and it's nothing.
Nothing ever does. Maybe one trade happens like the day before the deadline, like with the Von Miller trade, and then you see another smaller trade of a smaller player. I think the Chiefs made a trade for a defensive end. You saw Melvin Ingram get traded. Yeah, Melvin Ingram. I think that was like for like a 6th-round pick or something. So you see some smaller trades here and there, but I don't really think on the deadline you don't really ever see, on the deadline day anyways, you don't ever see like a huge blockbuster. So like the only really big trade that really happened was the Von Miller thing, and that was the day before. But I feel like the Saints always have this scenario of some guy they're always passing after, and it just doesn't happen. Like I know we are talking earlier about Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
With his situation last year, how the Saints were going to have a third team and pretty much pay them a draft pick just to pay salary, do some Mickey Loomis voodoo magic with the cap, how he likes to do things. And it just didn't work out.
A couple years ago.
AJ Green a couple years ago. Man, that'd be crazy. But yeah.
He's just another one that got away.
Yeah, it just never pans out. You always hear they were trying to do this, but it just didn't work out. And I'm sure that's the way it is with a lot of teams out there. These contract talks these trade talks just fall through, and nothing ever really comes to fruition. But, I mean, Deshaun Jackson, he did get released because they were trying to trade him, and I guess no team wanted to trade for him. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's someone the Saints look at. I mean, at this point, you got to take who you can get. But, I mean, honestly, I'd probably rather have... And I know some people might be like, really, when I say this, but I'd honestly rather just probably leave it as is. Just go with the guys we have, maybe. I don't know how big of a factor Deshaun Jackson could be, especially if Taysom Hill's the quarterback. I know I was ragging on his deep arm earlier, so that really wouldn't do anything. And we have Deontay Harris on the team, and I really like Deontay Harris. He had the big 4th down conversion where he contorted his body on that Trevor Simeon pass. That was kind of off the mark, but he's been doing good, and it's good that he came back in that game because he definitely made an impact. So yeah, I think at this point they're just going to roll with what they have. They might put in a waiver claim for Deshaun Jackson, and they might not. I don't know, because I think we just have a lot of deep threat kind of guys at wide receiver right now. So I don't really see the point really at this point in adding him.
Yeah, I think D-Jax was the one guy I was kind of, I don't know if I really see any positive value adding Deshaun Jackson to this team because, older Deshaun Jackson can't be a wide receiver 1. He needs somebody else to draw attention so he can get the one-on-ones and then you use his speed on you. And I just don't think that he will get that in New Orleans as the number 1 wide receiver. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. He is a veteran who was cut after the deadline, which means he is subject to waiver claims. So it's not like, they drop him and he can sign wherever he wants to. He will be on the waiver claims, and at 5-2, it seems a little unrealistic that, we would be the team to nab him. But, hey, who knows? Who knows what happens? Yeah, and I think that's gonna wrap things up. This is a very good episode. Matt, as always, hammering it out. Later on this week, we will have a Falcons preview for your Saints as they travel. They're traveling to Atlanta, correct?
No, we're playing in the dome again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, home. Okay, I'm tripping. Okay, home against Falcons. It is Falcon Hate Week, which is a famous tradition in New Orleans, if you will, these last few years. So, Matt, before we start for today, any last words, comments, or concerns about this team?
Well, I mean, I just want to thank the Saints for having a great game when I went there.
Maybe you need to go to all the games.
Yeah, I mean, both times I went, they won, and my friend noted that out. And then I texted him right after the game. I said, "Booking my tickets for the Atlanta game right now, just so they win the next game against Atlanta." But yeah, I mean, it was an exciting time getting to go down to the dome. Always a fun atmosphere. Hope to get to do it again next season. Maybe me and my friend will go down there next season. That'd be something I'm hoping to do. But yeah, fun times, great win. Still feel bad for Jameis, and yeah, we're moving on. Let's see what we can do with this team with the backup quarterback situation once again for the third year in a row. Let's see how it goes.
It's our favorite song of the year playing the back. So that's gonna wrap things up this week, guys. Later this week we'll have a Falcons preview coming out. Do not forget, follow us on Twitter at SaintsFPC. Listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at. And drop that review on Apple. This has been Alec and Matt on the Full Press Saints podcast, signing off. See you guys next time.